Business was winding down. Customers were shuffling out of the tavern at a snail's pace, but it was getting very late and most had work the next day. Only a couple stragglers remained, an ancient rich gnome widow named Amara who lived in one of the rooms upstairs, my buddy from Founder's City named Salazar who was visiting, and a strange man I had never seen before. He was so pale he seemed to glow. His blonde hair so bright it could be mistaken for white, and his golden eyes stared at his glass of whiskey. His appearance contrasted hard against his clothes, made mostly of black leather with red highlights. His outfit consisted of a trench coat, pants, and boots. He didn't wear a shirt under that coat. I had been keeping an eye on this man throughout the night. He came in at about 4 o'clock when happy hour started. He wasn't drinking heavily, mostly cider. He had spent most of the evening flirting with my female patrons, hence why I was watching him. Luckily, when he was turned down, he seemed to take the hint, and I didn't get any impression it would lead to any trouble. Anytime he wasn't flirting, he was gambling. Mostly with Salazar. I estimated my friend had lost 200 gold in various card games over the night. I whistled to Salazar. The purple-haired half-elf walked over, his walk uneasy from a night of drinking. Salazar had studied potions with me under Galfor's teachings. He sat down at the bar and said, "I don't think I'll have enough money to pay for the room." "That's fine, just help me out in the morning and I'll call us even," I said, handing Salazar a glass of lemon water. "Who's the blondie you keep losing your gold to?" "Calls himself Greed," Salazar grumbled, rubbing his temples before grabbing the water. "Pretentious git. I can't seem to pin down how to beat him." "Aw, normally you're more sweet than this," I teased. "Bite me, bunny boy," Salazar said. Not my type," I said, giving him a key to one of the rooms. Salazar gave an annoyed groan before taking the water upstairs. A moment later, after I'd wiped down the bar for the 67th time tonight, Greed stood up with his empty glass and came over to the bar. His demeanor had changed. Now that he was up so close, I noticed he wore black eyeliner and had a bit of stubble on his face and wore black nail polish. "Can I get a refill?" Greed asked softly. He didn't make eye contact with me. I refilled his glass. I knew the somber expression he wore. I'd seen it time and time again over the years I had worked at this tavern. "Who are we looking to forget?" I asked casually as I cleaned a glass with a rag. Greed took a sip. He stared into his glass as if looking into a memory. It took him a moment before he said, "My sister." That answer surprised the hell out of me. I hadn't heard that one before. I tossed the rag over my shoulder the way you see in movies and leaned against the bar, and I asked, "Now, why would you want to do a thing like that?" "Well, not necessarily forget her," Reed said, letting the whiskey slosh around in the glass. I didn't respond. I just looked at him, inviting him to continue. It took a moment before he finished. "Have you ever done anything when you were young that you wish you could take back?" "I think we all have," I remarked. It was a rather generic answer. To be honest, I did have something I wish I could take back. I then asked, "Want to tell me about it?" Greed glanced at me, careful to avoid eye contact. He sighed and took another sip. He then began his story. "For a little context, I am a Nephilim, son of an angel and a human." Nephilim were incredibly rare. I had heard stories about them, but I had never seen one in person before now, and I was a little suspicious about his claim. "Oh, you are?" I asked. I think you could sense the doubt in my tone, which I had tried to mask, but it had been a long day. Now, most people I knew would have said something to try and convince me, but Greed, on the other hand, remained silent. He closed his eyes and let out a tired and slightly annoyed sigh, before opening his eyes again, revealing completely black voids where his golden irises used to be. From his back, large skeletal wings stretched out, A sense of horror overwhelmed me, making me break out in a cold sweat. My hands shook. I had the sudden feeling that a terrible fate would soon befall me, and there was nothing I could do to stop it, not even if I used all the magic I had at my disposal. Sorry, Grade said, as his appearance returned to normal. Yeah, I squeaked. It's fine. Go on. It took a moment for Grade to get his bearings before he kept going. I grew up in Silvervein. It's a piece of shit town. I lived in the Church of Miranda with my mom, my younger brother Jason, and my older sister Jolene. He smiled a bit. She was so kind and supportive. Whenever Jason got sick, she would take care of him. She would read to us stories after Mom went to bed. I don't know where she learned how to read. Mom didn't let us learn how to. The only thing we were allowed to read was the Mirandan Bible, which is written in ancient Orcish. Jolene was a beautiful woman. She had many marriage proposals over the years. She turned them all down in favor of serving the church. I always feared she would say yes and break apart the family. These days, I wish she did. Maybe she would not have suffered the fate that she did. I did not like where this story was going, but curiosity drove me forward. Dreading the answer, I asked, "What happened to her?"